next assessment criteria now, which is 1.4, which is identify how to communicate effectively using the relevant equipment. So, what type of communication device do we have available to us? Okay, so let's list them. So we've got things like maybe internal telephone systems, you know, the old pickup phone, old style, mobile phones, we've got internal PA or DJ, tannoy, and radios and earpieces. So things to be consciously aware about when using internal telephone systems in your communication. So it's important that if you're answering the phone, you're always polite and professional. Okay, you answer appropriately and in line with your company's guidelines, and of course bear in mind and consider confidentiality in relation to phone conversations. Be clear, be concise, don't use slang words, be polite, make sure you log and record calls and pass it appropriately to the appropriate person promptly and accurately. And of course, when we're communicating with outside agencies, such as the police and other external agencies, remember your ABCs, you're accurate, brief and clear, and to use your Nato alphabet. So use of mobile phones, what do we use them for? Okay, so usually used to contact external agencies such as police or emergency services, and can be used off premises if required. So, you know, if you need urgent backup, you know, and you're not linked up on the town link on your radio, if you're outside the venue, you can pick up your phone and dial 999 quite easily, can't you? And there's also going to be certain times or situations where you may use your phone to video, to record evidence, okay, where needs must though. Okay, and they must not then be used for the purpose of sticking up on Facebook or social media and showing off to people. You know, and I know you see it, you know, you see lots of it, you know, of other people posting up incidents, but look what happens and how much it gets taken out of proportion so quickly where only snippets are seen. You know, and so from a professional perspective and from a data protection perspective, if you're using your camera to film, it would be to gather evidence. So let's then we'll have a look at the internal PA systems or tannoys or venue DJs. Okay, so extremely effective of gaining the attention or getting the attention of customers. Maybe you've got someone coming to the door that needs to speak to them inside. You can go and pass a message to the DJ, say, yeah, you know, can you get Bill to come to the door? His mum's waiting to pick him up, you know, etc., etc. So the other kind of benefits, they're a lot higher up with DJs, aren't they? So they can often see more what's going on as well. So there's been many times or situations where I've been working on the door where the DJ will say fight on the dance floor, or when you get to a situation and someone's like, you know, hit someone or glass someone and they're running off, then the DJ will like, oh, he's gone over here or he's gone over there. You know, so, you know, the tannoy system or the DJ, you know, the loudspeaker can be very effective for you in relation to your role. Let's have a look at radios and earpieces. And so what are radios for? Are they fake breathalyzers to use on drunk service users when you're bored? Are they an extension of your finger to point at service users? Can you use the aerial for even like a chew toy, nose picking, or swinging the... Okay, no, obviously not at all. Okay, so jokes aside, in case you didn't know, radios were a vital means of communication between the team and sometimes outside agencies to be able to summon assistance quickly and discreetly. Of course, discreetly if you're wearing an earpiece, you know. Yeah, I remember the days before radios, okay, and some venues used to work at, they simply used to be a light on the door. So, you know, you stood there, you know, and then suddenly a light will come up, which means a bar cipher have hit it, which says the situation inside. You had no idea what it is. You know, it could be like a massive kickoff, could be someone just not paid for their drink. You know, so every time that light went off, you'd get a massive adrenaline dump in order to, whatever the situation would be. You end up knocking drinks over and all sorts, and it's just, you get there like, oh yeah, sorry, I thought that guy wasn't paying for his drink, but he's now paid now. You're like, oh my God, you're going to give me a bloody heart attack, you know? But that's, you know, that's one of the things, you know, back in the days before radio, it's very, very difficult to be able to communicate and obviously get to situations quickly. The only kind of downside, I'll say, of radios, and the difference is what I definitely notice is door supervisors just aren't as switched on as they used to be. You know, I remember kind of back in the day, you know, no matter where I work, especially like in clubs and stuff, you know, I'll kind of be stood up on a DJ or on a plinth or something somewhere. You know, my colleagues would be in different places around the room, you know, and all I would need to do is just kind of just do this. And if I'd done this, then my mate, he'll be doing this as well, and they'll be doing it. You know, it's one of those that we always kind of kept an eye on each other, and we kept an eye on the crowd, you know, because if someone went wrong, you know, we would need to, you know, if our mates suddenly disappeared, we need to know where they're going. So I kind of miss those days. You know, the other issue with radios, of course, is when they go wrong. So either when they break, when batteries have gone, or people have got crappy earpieces, or people don't actually use them properly, you know. So as long as they're in good working order, you've got a good earpiece, staff know how to use them, they're great pieces of kit. Okay, so they can be used to communicate over each other. And most kind of town or city centres nowadays will have like a town link radio as well. So, you know, you get another radio which you can communicate with town centre, which of course the town centre radio is to do with either warning you or you warning others of potential incidents going on in the town. So the town link radios often operated by the head doorman, usually used to either receive warnings from Tango Charlie or town centre control or other venues about would-be or troublemakers, you know, heading towards your venue or ones that you've evicted, you know. So for example, if you refuse a large group of guys or people that are aggressive, you know, or someone who's suspected of being on drugs or a drug dealer, you would either contact, you know, town control and inform them, give them a description or direction of travel, you know, and or potentially other venues. Okay, so it means that they then obviously can be refused entry there as well. It's important that you remain professional on the radio at all times, because there's lots of people that are linked into it, you know. And I always remember, you know, at the time, you know, some years ago, that's that lager advert, you know, we're like, what's up? You know, and that happened for like a few weeks, right? Where, you know, because of that one didn't have the earpiece on, so all you could hear was what's up? You know, all messing about. And of course you got Tango Charlie Town Centre coming on. Yeah, stop blowing that. It's really not professional, and it's not, and it shouldn't be doing that. So in relation to earpieces, do we need them? Are they important? 100%, 110% earpiece is important. Why? Well, especially when you're working inside a venue, how are you going to hear it? You know, the times I've worked, like, you know, with like dodgy radios, with either connectors are broken or the earpiece kind of breaks mid-shift after an altercation, it was an absolutely nightmare to hear people. So when you're working inside a club, you know, rather than having a radio, you know, on your belt, you'd have to have it in your hand. You know, in order to be able to hear it, you'd have to have like the volume up full, and just you keep your thumb over the speaker, right? So you just keep it here, you kind of hold it. Of course, as soon as your thumb vibrated, you'd have to bring it up to your ear really quickly to be able to hear what's going on, right? You know, and even when you did, and then of course you had to deal with a situation, or if you suddenly had sudden violence appear on you, what do you do with the radio? You know what I mean? It's kind of like, you know, sometimes you could either drop it, you try and put it in your pocket. You know, I've known door supervisors to use it as a weapon by accident because they've simply just got it in their hand. You know, so earpieces are imperative, you know, that you really need to have well, that's just in my opinion, you need to have them. You know, and of course the other issue as well, if you don't have earpieces, of course everyone else, you know, if you're working in a quieter area, everyone else can kind of hear the communication as well. So, you know, and that could kind of breach kind of data protection, isn't it? So, also with earpieces, ideally you'll get one with an inline mic as well, because if you haven't got an inline mic, yes, you can hear, but you can't talk. So if you imagine you're inside the club, you've got a situation, and, you know, I'm trying to get back up, you know, and I'm clicking the button, and I'm trying to kind of shout down to my cop. Yeah, they're not going to hear it. They're just going to hear, you know, interruption. So the inline mics, ideally, we've got a little microphone here. You can push that to, you know, in case you've never worked the door, in case you've never had a radio, on how to do it. So apologies again if I'm teaching to suck eggs, but again, it's just to ensure everyone's on the same hymn sheet. So does the employer supply earpieces? Sometimes they do, but to be honest, when they do, they're cheap and they're crap. You know, and based on an earpiece could be the difference of life and death. I would suggest you invest in decent earpieces. And I know that can be a pain in the bottom because different venues you work at may have different radios, but you can get different connectors or adapters. You know, and you know, it's good to get one with a decent one with an inline mic and noise cancelling. Otherwise, when you're calling on a radio, all you can hear is and you can't even really hear what's going on. And if you need your colleagues in seconds and they can't hear you because you've got a crappy microphone, then it could mean a big difference in relation to serious injury or even worse. So spend good money. Okay, so if I look at now at the basics of how to use a radio. Okay, so most radios we use are two-way radios, so that means that only one person can speak at a time. So therefore, before speaking, make sure no one else is already transmitting. And if you don't, you will cut them off mid-conversation, you know. And then when you speak, keep it to a minimum, okay? Remember your ABCs, accurate, brief, and clear. So if you need to communicate, you know, for example, regarding a service user, then get all the info you need first rather than clogging up the system while you information gather. Okay? We all know people who do that, right? They're like, yeah, so I've got a customer here and they want to know what time do we close? And they think, oh my God, it's like, geez, get the information first and just say it quickly because you could be getting in the way of important communication. And so that's it. And we've all experienced those people, right? So I guess this has got a benefit of doing the upskill, you know, to a point, you know. So some are maybe teaching to suck eggs, others hopefully will educate to better use the radios properly, you know. So other thing of radios is make sure you're on the right channel. Okay, and amount of times I've been in situations, right, where, you know, though, of course, technically you're supposed to do a radio check to make sure you're in the right channel. You know, I always remember this time when a local party in Bournemouth or a club, you know, we stood there on the door. It's kind of quiet. There's two of us on the door, one guy upstairs, right? We get the guy, doorman come down. He's like, almost like crying, shirt ripped. I'm like, where were you? Where were you? I've been radio for ages. And we're like, well, what channel are you on? He's like, 3. And I'm like, well, we're on channel 1, man. You're like radio in the bar style, you know? And it's one of those, you know, it's so, it can be forgotten, but make sure you're on the right channel, because you may have, say, different channels allocated. You know, sometimes you'll have a control room, sometimes you'll have response teams, sometimes you'll have bar staff and management, to make sure you're in the right channel. So make sure you use the radio for the purpose it was intended, okay? So no banter, keep the information short and sweet. Volume, make sure your volume is set. You know, and there's no point in doing a radio check when you stood next to me, then you go and walk in the club and then wonder why you can't hear me or I can't hear you. So, you know, radio checks can be done quite frequent. So how do we communicate? How do we use them? Well, you usually push the PTT button. What's PTT stand for? Push to talk. So it's either on the side of the radio or in your online or your inline mic. So, you know, don't shout at the mic. Make sure you keep your face or your head about 5 centimeters away, otherwise it can just come through all garbled, you know. And I know it's difficult, you know, where, you know, when you've got a situation that's unfolding in front of you, and like you've got perhaps someone taking swings for you, like, how do you know? No. But, you know, the guys are not going to hear you. You know, you need to be clear and concise as possible. And I know it's hard to remain calm, but you need to try and do it if you want that backup to arrive, you know. So you hold the PTT button down for half a second before you speak. And it's good practice that when you talk, that you'll usually say the first word twice, in order that, you know, that the people listening can register that something's going on. You know, so it stimulates their brain. What do you mean by that? When you think of the other door staff, they could be around the venue, you know, already in the middle or thinking about something else. They're not going, oh, I wonder if they're going to contact me yet, you know. So usually by saying the first word twice, the first word stimulates their brain to now listening. So for example, if I'm doing a radio check with my mate Dave or my colleague Dave, I would say, you know, Dave, this is Rob, radio check over. Let's have a look at radio call signs and pro words. Okay, so what are they? So call signs are locally agreed terms used to identify people and places in a particular venue. Okay, so, you know, for example, if you've got 2 Bobs, you need to use a different name for one of your Bobs, otherwise both Bobs will answer. You know, then the venue itself. The venue itself should be split down into zones or to sections, and each should then be given some type of call sign to get to. You know, and again, the purpose is to be able to shorten the amount of time used on the radio and to be able to concisely get that information across. You know, so, you know, you think of your venue be broken down into like 5 zones, you know, and or you could use different exits, couldn't you? So if you've got 6 exits, you're like exit 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So if you need urgent assistance, you can say exit 6, you know, rather than going, oh yeah, inside the venue, by the fruit machine on the left, next to the plants, could I have some assistance, please? You know, you could just say exit 6, or zone 1 or zone 2, you know. So get the call signs, understand your call signs for your venue, make sure you know them, make sure you use them. Okay, so let's have a look at pro words now. So pro words are used, again, to clearly communicate with the least possible amount of words in order to get the message across quickly discreetly and effectively. So some are kind of universal, another venue more specific. So let's have a look at some of the terms. Over, what does that mean? Okay, so when you use over, it usually means that you finished what you want to say and you require a reply. Next one we'll look at is out. Out means that you finished what you said and you don't want to reply. How many times have you heard, yeah, over and out? What? Over and out? What does over and out mean? Over means that I finished and I'm waiting for a reply, and out means I don't. So it can be one or the other, you know. Next one, another one could be Roger. What does Roger mean? Well, I used to work with Rog, good old guy Rog, worked with him for many, many years. But, you know, when Roger that, Rod's like, hey, what, me? So Roger would generally mean understand. Okay, so rather than using Roger, you could use something like copy or something again which is specific to your team. Know what they are. Say again could be another one. What does say again mean? Received, stand by, receiving, go ahead. Okay, so all quite obvious, but you need to know kind of what they are. Okay, other types of internal site-specific ones could be things like codes, so code green, red, amber, etc. And other little kind of cool things or terms or ways in order to be able to perhaps get assistance quickly without triggering the service user. So this is the thing, you see, is that you need to be careful, right, what you say to service users sometimes, because if you've got a situation unfolding in front of you, you need backup and it's fairly urgent, because perhaps you've got someone who's threatening to take a swing or back to take a swing at you. You know, how are they going to respond when you say, yeah, I need some urgent attention, the front door, urgent? You know, what's going on through that guy's head now, right? He's like thinking, I need to hit this dude, right, quickly, because if there's a load of bouncers about to run out and kick my head in, you know, so think about what words you're saying that could trigger and come up with ways, and I'm sure you've already come up with them. Something we used to use often was that if we need assistance urgently, we wouldn't say. I know that seems weird, right? But if we needed someone urgently, like for example, if I want my mate Dave, I want my colleague Dave to come to the front door, I'll be like, yeah, Dave, this is Rob, come front door, over. You know, and if I need him not urgently, I'll say, hi Dave, this is Rob, could you come to the front door? Not urgent, over. You see, so if I say not urgent, it means not urgent. If I don't say not urgent, it means urgent. And again, so that can be a little bit confusing, but very important to know, to use, to understand, you know. But again, radios, great bits of kit with earpieces, you know, as long as they're used correctly. So the other thing that you're expected to know as a door supervisor, you may not know, is your NATO alphabet. Okay, and you will be tested this on the day. You know, as part of your assessment when it's filmed, you will need to do it. So let's have a look then. Let's go through it now, then it'll be down to you to practice in your own time. As I said, you will be expected to know it when it comes to the course. Okay, so we have Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, Foxtrot, Golf, Hotel, India, Juliet, Kilo, Lima, Mike, November, Oscar, Papa, Quebec, Romeo, Sierra, Tango, Uniform, Victor, Whiskey, X-Ray, Yankee, Zulu. There we are, all there. Down to you now to be able to pause this, wind back, take a snapshot, whatever you need to do, practice it, because you will be assessed. Best way to practice randomly is on people's number plates. You know, when you're driving your car, more if you're a passenger than not, or if you're stuck in traffic, look at number plates and try and recite those number plates back using the NATO alphabet. It's the best way to kind of learn to get them in your head. The other thing we're expected to know as well is the pronunciation, that's the irony, the pronunciation of numbers on the radio. Okay, so which are 0, 1, 2 normal, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is normal, 7, which is normal, 8, and 9. Okay, so something else you'll need to remember.